Have you ever found yourself on the cusp of something wonderful, something you worked for, dreamed of, and then, for no discernible reason, you do something to mess it all up? You pick a fight with the person you love right before a romantic getaway. You procrastinate on the final chapter of the book you've been writing for years. You eat an entire pizza the night before you're supposed to run a half marathon. It's a baffling, almost universal human experience. We stand at the edge of our own promised land, a place of health, happiness, or success, and instead of stepping forward, we take a deliberate step back or even leap right off the cliff. Why? Why do we get in our own way? This isn't just about a lack of discipline. It feels deeper, more primal, like there's a hidden force inside of us, an invisible puppeteer pulling the strings against our own conscious will. It's a question that can haunt you in the quiet hours of the night, the ghost of the person you could be, whispering about the life you could have, if only you would stop being your own worst enemy. For writer and thinker Brianna Wiest, this wasn't just a passing curiosity. It became an obsession. She looked at the landscape of human potential and saw this strange, recurring pattern of self-destruction, and she dedicated herself to understanding its roots. She wasn't looking for a simple life hack or a 7-step productivity plan. She was searching for the fundamental truth of why we stand in our own way. The journey she went on and the profound answers she uncovered are the subject of her work, and they form a map for anyone who has ever felt like the primary obstacle in their own life. Today, we are going to walk that map together to understand the incredible, counterintuitive reason we build mountains in our path, only to realize that the mountain was never external. The mountain is you. To truly grasp the power of this idea, we have to first inhabit the world before the revelation. We have to sit with the feeling of being utterly and completely stuck. This is a place many of us know intimately. It's the land of recurring patterns. It's the life where every Monday morning feels like a cosmic reset button on your failures. You wake up filled with resolve. This is the week you'll stick to the diet, you'll finish the project, you'll be more patient, you'll finally apply for that new job. And for a day, or maybe even 2, you're a titan of industry and a paragon of virtue. But then Wednesday comes. A little stress at work, a flicker of insecurity, and suddenly you're back to your old ways, promising yourself that you'll really start again next Monday. This cycle isn't just frustrating. It's soul-crushing. It erodes your self-trust. Each broken promise to yourself adds another layer of evidence to a growing internal case file that argues you are incapable, undisciplined, and fundamentally flawed. This was the problem space that Wiest began to explore. It was an academic puzzle. It was the lived reality for millions. People who were intelligent, capable, and full of dreams, yet were somehow tethered to their own worst habits. They would achieve a degree of success, only to find a way to lose it. They would find a healthy relationship, only to find a way to sabotage it. The external circumstances would change, a new city, a new partner, a new job, but the internal pattern remained stubbornly, infuriatingly the same. The crisis point for so many in this state isn't a dramatic explosion, but a slow, dawning horror. It's the realization that you are the common denominator in all of your life's problems. It's the chilling moment you understand that you can run from anything except yourself. You can blame your boss, your parents, your past, the economy, but eventually you are left alone with the undeniable truth. The call is coming from inside the house. The problem isn't that the world is against you. The problem is that a part of you is against yourself. This is the ultimate powerlessness, the feeling of being a passenger in your own body, watching yourself make decisions you know you will regret. And this state is enormously costly. It's a life half-lived, a symphony of potential left unplayed. It's the gnawing anxiety that comes from knowing you are not living in alignment with your true capabilities. This is the deep, existential ache that we set out to diagnose, not with platitudes, but with profound, compassionate understanding of the hidden mechanics of the human mind. The first major breakthrough on this journey is a radical reframing of the entire problem. We tend to view self-sabotage as a moral failing. We call it weakness, laziness, or a lack of willpower. We beat ourselves up for it, believing that if we could just be more critical, more disciplined, more harsh with ourselves, we could finally whip ourselves into shape. But Wiest proposes something entirely different, a paradigm shift that changes everything. She argues that self-sabotage is not a sign of your weakness. It is, in fact, an expression of your strength misapplied. It is a primitive, powerful survival mechanism. Your self-sabotaging behaviors are not random acts of chaos. They are purposeful attempts by your subconscious mind to meet a deep and legitimate need. The behavior is destructive, yes, but the intention behind it is protective. Consider the person who desperately wants to leave a soul-crushing job but never sends out a single resume. Consciously, they want a new life. Subconsciously, their inaction is meeting a profound need for safety. The current job, however miserable, is known. The pain is predictable. The daily dread is a familiar rhythm. The idea of a new job, a new boss, new responsibilities, that is a terrifying unknown. The subconscious, whose primary job is to keep you safe, will always choose a familiar misery over the uncertain joy. So, the procrastination isn't laziness. It's the subconscious screaming, "Stay here. It's terrible, but at least we know the rules." The self-sabotage is successfully meeting the need for safety and predictability. Or think about the person who grew up in a household filled with yelling and emotional instability. As an adult, they finally find a calm, stable, loving partner, and it feels wrong, unsettlingly quiet. So they start picking fights over small things, creating drama out of thin air. From the outside, it looks like they're destroying a good thing. But from the inside, their subconscious is trying to return to the emotional state it recognizes as home. Chaos is its baseline. Peace is a foreign language. The sabotage, the manufactured conflict, is an attempt to recreate the emotional environment they were programmed to survive in. It's meeting a deep-seated need to feel a sense of normalcy, however warped that normalcy might be. This single insight is revolutionary. It moves the conversation from one of self-blame to one of self-inquiry. The question is no longer, "What is wrong with me?" It becomes, "What is this behavior trying to do for me? What unmet need is this self-destructive act trying to fulfill?" This initial breakthrough lays the groundwork for real change, because you cannot heal a part of yourself that you are at war with. Understanding that your sabotage is a misguided attempt at self-preservation allows you to approach yourself not with a whip, but with curiosity and compassion, for the very first time. But this understanding, as powerful as it is, isn't the whole story. If it were as simple as identifying the unmet need, we could all just say, I see my procrastination as just a need for safety. I'll find a safer way to meet that need now and be cured. But it's never that easy. And this is where the journey takes a deeper, more complicated turn. This is where Wiest uncovers the second, more stubborn layer of our internal resistance. We identify the need, we understand the pattern, and yet we find ourselves drawn back to the old behavior, like a magnet. The complication is this: we are not just attached to our behaviors, we are fundamentally addicted to the emotions and, even more importantly, the identities that those behaviors create. The second great principle is that we sabotage ourselves to remain loyal to a familiar, albeit painful, sense of self. We build entire personas around our struggles. Think of the struggling artist. This identity can be strangely comfortable. It explains their lack of commercial success. It makes them feel romantic, misunderstood, part of a historical tradition of suffering for one's art. This identity gets them attention, sympathy, and a community of other struggling artists. Now, what happens if this person is suddenly offered a major book deal or a gallery show? Terrifying, utterly terrifying, because if they become a successful artist, who are they? They lose their primary story. They lose the identity that has structured their entire adult life. So they might miss the deadline, turn in subpar work, or have a creative breakthrough that leads them in a completely different, unmarketable direction. This isn't a conscious choice. It's a subconscious act of identity preservation. The fear of success is almost always a fear of identity loss. Or consider a more subtle example. Wiest talked about how we develop what she calls an upper limit problem. We have an internal thermostat for how much happiness, love, or success we are comfortable with. When life gets too good and exceeds that setting, we will subconsciously do something to bring the temperature back down to our familiar range. You get a promotion, so you splurge on something you can't afford to reintroduce financial stress. You have a wonderful week with your partner, so you bring up an old grievance to reintroduce a familiar tension. We are addicted to our emotional baseline. If your baseline is a low-grade anxiety, a life of pure calm will feel so alien that you will find a way to worry about something, anything, to get back to that familiar hum of anxiety. We even seek out triggers for our negative emotions. When we're feeling a little down, we'll put on the saddest music we can find. When we're feeling insecure, we'll scroll through the social media of people who make us feel inadequate. We do this because these emotional states, while unpleasant, are ours. They're the well-worn grooves in our neural pathways. They are home. Letting go of self-sabotage, then, is not just about changing a habit. It's about being willing to undergo a form of ego death. It requires the courage to say, I am no longer going to be the person who is always broke, or I am no longer going to be the person who is unlovable. And that is a terrifying void to step into, because if you are not that person anymore, this is the point in the journey where the two great principles, that our sabotage serves a need and that it protects an identity, begin to merge. And in their intersection, the grand, unifying aha moment of the entire philosophy is revealed. It's the title of the book and the core of its wisdom. We spend our lives thinking that our problems are external. We think the mountain we need to climb is a career ladder, the hostile marketplace, the difficult relationship, the number on the scale. We see our goals as a summit out there that we must conquer through force and willpower. But the synthesis of all this inner work leads to one profound realization. The mountain isn't out there. The mountain is you. All of those external challenges are simply reflections, projections of your own internal landscape. The real obstacle course is a terrain of your own mind, your own history, your own limiting beliefs. The mountain is a collection of your unmet needs from childhood that you are still trying to satisfy with destructive adult behaviors. The mountain is a fortress of the painful identity you built to survive your past, a fortress that has now become your prison. The sheer weight of this idea is staggering. It means you have to stop looking outside for the enemy. You have to stop blaming the world for your problems and turn your gaze inward. But here is the most crucial part of the synthesis, the part that separates this philosophy from mere self-help slogans. The goal is not to defeat the mountain. It's not to bulldoze it or conquer it or shame it into submission. That approach is just another form of internal warfare, another way of being at odds with yourself. The true path to transformation is to stop fighting the mountain and, instead, to begin the process of understanding it, exploring it, and ultimately integrating it. The goal is to become the mountain. This means accepting the entire landscape of who you are, the sunlit peaks of your strengths and talents, but also the dark caves of your trauma, the jagged cliffs of your triggers, and the swampy marshes of your shame. It's about realizing that these features aren't flaws to be eliminated. They are data. They are signposts telling you where the healing needs to happen. True self-mastery is not about getting rid of your bad parts. It's about understanding them so intimately that they no longer have unconscious power over you. It's about learning to navigate your own inner world with the skill of an experienced mountaineer, know where the treacherous paths are and why they exist, and choosing to build new, safer trails to the summit of your potential. This is the ultimate reclamation of personal power. The mountain is you, not as a declaration of your brokenness, but as a declaration of your wholeness and your capacity to heal. So where does this profound journey leave us? It leaves us standing at the base of our own inner mountain, but now we hold a map. We are no longer lost. The story of this discovery is not just an intellectual exercise. It is a practical blueprint for transformation. It begins not with grand gestures, but with a quiet, courageous act of radical self-awareness. The next time you catch yourself in an act of self-sabotage, procrastinating, overspending, starting a fight, the blueprint asks you to pause. Instead of descending into the familiar spiral of self-criticism, you must shift into a state of gentle inquiry. Ask yourself the first question. What was I feeling right before I did this? Boredom? Fear? Insecurity? Loneliness? Then ask the second, deeper question. What fundamental need is this destructive behavior attempting to meet? Is it trying to give me a sense of safety, of control, of connection, of excitement? And finally, ask the question of identity. What story about myself does this behavior reinforce? What familiar, painful identity am I clinging to? This process, observe, inquire, identify, is the work. It is the practice of climbing your mountain. Each time you do it, you bring a little more of your unconscious programming into the light of conscious awareness. And with awareness comes choice. You begin to build new pathways, to find healthier ways to meet your needs, to consciously gather evidence for a new, more expansive identity. This journey is not easy. It is the hardest work you will ever do. But the alternative, a life lived in the shadow of your own potential, a prisoner to your own unconscious patterns, is infinitely harder. The insights we've explored today are the first step. Understanding is the map, but only you can take the steps. Only you can do the climbing. If this journey of self-discovery resonates with you, if you are ready to stop being your own obstacle and start becoming your own greatest ally, then consider this a starting point. Join a community of fellow climbers by subscribing. Think of it not just as a click, but as a commitment to yourself, a promise to continue learning, to continue exploring your own inner landscape. The path to your best life is not about finding a way around the mountain. It's about realizing the path goes straight through it, because the mountain is you,